In the fall of 1857, a letter reached the offices of the Charleston Mercury newspaper. It was written in a neat hand that showed years of careful secret writing. The sender called herself only M. Washington. She said she knew about events that happened on a plantation in a remote part of Beaufort County, South Carolina. The editor, William Morrison, first thought the letter was another made-up story from abolitionists, but some details, exact places, family names, and dates, made him decide to look deeper. The plantation was called Greystone Manor. It covered about 2,000 acres of rice fields along the Combahee River, around 30 miles southwest of Charleston. County records showed the land belonged to the Harrington family since 1792, when Cornelius Harrington bought it with money from his shipping business. By the 1850s, his grandson Edmund Harrington ran the place. Local society pages described him as quiet and careful in business. What made M. Washington's letter so troubling was her claim that she was born on the plantation in 1835 and stayed until she escaped in 1856. She said she saw things in her last year there that were hard to explain and still troubled her after she left. The letter named specific spots on the land: a root cellar under the main house, quarters built far from the fields, and a building she called the Silent House near the edge of the cypress swamp. Morrison started by checking county records. The 1850 census listed Edmund Harrington as owner of 63 enslaved people. That number seemed small for such a large plantation. Even stranger, many of the enslaved were listed as over 50 years old, with very few children under 15. Most nearby plantations had more young people because children grew into workers. Church records from St. Helena's Parish showed other odd things. While most owners kept good lists of births, deaths, and baptisms among the enslaved, the Harrington records had big gaps. From 1850 to 1856, only 3 births and 2 deaths were noted at Greystone Manor. These low numbers suggested either very good health or hidden facts. When Morrison asked local people quietly, they said little about the Harrington place. The family went to church only sometimes. Edmund Harrington was rarely seen in Charleston society, even though his family was well known. Merchants who sold to the plantation said deals were short and formal. Rice from Greystone came to Charleston docks on time, but the amounts did not match what the land should produce. The description of Greystone Manor in M. Washington's letter fit old survey maps from 1843. The main house was Georgian style, common for rich planters. It sat on a rise above the river. A row of live oaks planted by the first owner led from the road to the house. But the enslaved quarters were not like usual ones. Instead of one group near the main house, they were in 3 separate spots. One group was almost a mile away, close to the swamp. M. Washington's letter gave exact details that showed she really knew the place. She mentioned the sound of the rice mill wheel, which turned only at certain tides. She described the work bells: 5 rings at dawn, 3 at noon, 4 at evening. This pattern did not match any normal schedule in farming books of that time. Most important, she wrote about a basement under the main house. It was reached through a door hidden behind a false wall in the kitchen pantry, a detail only someone who worked inside would know. The events M. Washington described started in late 1855. She wrote about new people who came and stayed in the far quarters near the swamp. These newcomers never worked in the rice fields or joined regular plantation life. Edmund Harrington visited their quarters himself often, which was strange because owners usually left that to overseers or trusted enslaved people. What upset her most was the quiet around these new arrivals. Normal plantation life had voices, children's laughter, and songs during work. But the quarters near the swamp stayed silent, even at times when noise was expected. When she tried to go near that area during her tasks, other enslaved people stopped her and sent her away without saying why. The silent house M. Washington mentioned stood separate from the main house and quarters. It was where 2 paths met, one to the swamp, one to old unused rice fields. She said the building looked cared for, with signs of regular cleaning and fixes. Windows were covered with thick cloth, and the only door stayed locked. She never saw anyone go in or out during the day. In the winter of 1855 to 1856, things changed at the plantation. Edmund Harrington went to Charleston more often and stayed away for days. When he was gone, overseer Thomas Mills took charge. Mills had worked there over 10 years. According to M. Washington, he seemed uneasy with the extra power and kept people from moving around more than usual. The biggest event she described happened one February night in 1856. She woke to sounds coming from under the main house, urgent, whispered voices. Her quarters were close enough that sounds from the basement could reach on quiet nights. She slipped out and went near the main house, moving carefully to stay hidden. The sounds came from the hidden basement room she knew from her work. Through a small ground-level window partly hidden by plants, she saw lamplight and moving shapes. The voices were muffled by stone and wood, but she heard several people talking, like giving instructions or reciting. What she saw through the window became the most shocking part of her letter. She said about 8 to 10 people sat in a circle inside the basement. Edmund Harrington was there, along with strangers, men and women dressed unlike anyone from the plantation. In the middle lay papers or books, though she could not see details clearly. The group went on for hours. People took turns speaking, though words were hard to hear. Sometimes someone stood and moved to a new spot, like part of a planned activity or ritual. It ended near dawn when lamps went out. No one left through outside doors, so she thought they used an inside way. After that night, M. Washington noticed more changes. The people in the far swamp quarters started to disappear, not all at once but slowly over weeks. She saw it when fewer meals were needed. When she asked about the missing ones, others stayed quiet or changed the subject. The last thing she wrote about happened in early spring 1856. In a part of the rice fields left empty, she found freshly turned soil in a square about 20 feet wide. The dirt looked dug up and filled back in, though no crops were planted there. Nearby she found odd things, bits of cloth, a metal button, and cut hair, not pulled out. These finds made M. Washington decide to escape Greystone Manor. Her letter told of a careful plan using her knowledge of local waters and ties to enslaved people on nearby places. She went through paths in the cypress swamp to the Combahee River, then got on a boat to Charleston. M. Washington's letter ended by saying the events at Greystone Manor were worse than normal plantation wrongs. She claimed Edmund Harrington and others did things beyond making money. Experiments on human souls, mixing medical tests with mind control on people chosen for their separation from regular plantation life. Morrison's investigation hit walls right away. Edmund Harrington ignored letters and refused meetings with newspaper people. Visits to Greystone Manor were blocked, with workers saying Harrington was away and no visitors allowed. South Carolina law gave owners wide control over their land, so legal tries failed. Finding M. Washington was just as hard. The letter came through a third person with no return address. Questions in Charleston's free black community and among new arrivals found nothing. It seemed she either went farther north or stayed hidden in the city. Checking the plantation's numbers was tough because records were limited. The 1860 census showed Harrington with 59 enslaved people, fewer than before. The drop could come from deaths, sales, escapes. But the pattern stayed odd. More older people, almost no children. Local Dr. Samuel Hughes, who served nearby plantations, said no unusual sickness explained the numbers at Greystone. He noted Harrington never asked for medical help for his enslaved people, saying he handled it himself, a strange choice for someone of his position. In summer 1857, Morrison got a second letter from James Crawford, who said he was a former overseer at Greystone in 1854 and 1855. Crawford backed up parts of M. Washington's story, especially the strange layout and separate housing for some people. He added details about Harrington's secret ways and control over parts others usually managed. Crawford said the swamp quarters were off-limits to him. Harrington claimed those people needed special care for health reasons he never explained. Crawford's job ended suddenly in late 1855, after he asked about odd supply orders, medical tools, chemicals for preserving, and too much lime for normal farm use. When he questioned it, Harrington fired him and made him leave right away. Crawford also described the basement as Harrington's private study and lab. He saw scientific tools and medical books during rare visits to the main house. He called Harrington very educated for a planter, with strong interest in the body and mind. These two letters made Morrison look wider. He found Edmund Harrington studied medicine in Philadelphia at Jefferson Medical College in 1848 and 1849. He focused on anatomy, body functions, and treating mental problems, called alienism then. Teachers remembered him as smart, but too fixed on risky ideas. One professor, Dr. Richard Whitman, said Harrington suggested human experiments the school found wrong. When turned down, he left without finishing his degree. This background fit the letter's claims. Harrington's medical knowledge, plus his remote plantation and full control over enslaved people with no legal rights, set the stage for the abuse described. Morrison also found money oddities. Bank records showed big payments to Philadelphia suppliers for medical gear, chemicals, and books on body and mind topics. These buys went on through the 1850s, pointing to ongoing experiments, not just interest. The worst find came from Charleston court records. In 1854, Harrington asked the court to let him run a private medical place for mental problems among enslaved people. He said it would help those unfit for regular work. The court approved with little checking, believing owners knew best for their property. This gave him wide freedom for activities that might otherwise draw attention. The timing matched M. Washington's story of new people arriving and being treated differently from 1855. The court paper suggested these were chosen for Harrington's medical tests. Further checks showed Harrington knew others with similar interests. Letters from a Philadelphia supply company linked him to Dr. Marcus Webb, thrown out of Jefferson Medical College for secret experiments on poor patients. Webb's letters with Harrington talked of chances to learn more by watching people in controlled settings. They called Greystone Manor perfect because of its distance and Harrington's legal power. The letters mentioned Webb visiting in 1855 and 1856, times that fit M. Washington's sightings of strangers in the basement meetings. The investigation reached a key point in fall 1857. A contact at the Beaufort County Courthouse said Harrington filed to sell Greystone Manor and move to Louisiana. The sale moved fast, and he had already left, leaving a Charleston law firm in charge. In October 1857, Morrison finally got inside with a photographer and doctor, helped by the law firm. What they found backed up much of the letters. The basement matched the description. A big windowless room reached through a hidden door behind the kitchen pantry. It held leftover scientific tools, surgery instruments, chemical setups, and devices to hold people. Tables had heavy use stains the doctor said looked like from bodies. Books and papers showed Harrington's focus on body, surgery, and mind medicine, mixed with handwritten notes of experiments on people listed only by numbers. One note from February 1856 described tests on subject 17, noting first resistance, then slow giving in, and lasting changes from mental pressure. Other notes had detailed body drawings from real cutting, not just study. They discussed brain parts tied to memory and feelings. The swamp quarters showed changes too. Buildings had boarded windows and sound-deadening walls. Some rooms had metal rings fixed to walls and floors to hold people. Most shocking was the dug-up soil area M. Washington mentioned. Digging found shallow graves with human remains. Bodies showed surgery cuts, missing parts, and bone changes from tests. The number matched the people she said vanished. Dr. Charles Hammond of Charleston examined the remains. He found precise skull holes from drilling, cut marks from cutting open, and signs bodies were taken apart for study. His report said the procedure went far past any real medical care and pointed to trained people doing systematic experiments. The findings appeared in the Charleston Mercury in November 1857. They caused strong reaction in South Carolina and farther north. The clear record of medical tests on enslaved people became strong proof for abolitionists about slavery's deep wrongs, but law response stayed small because of South Carolina rules and slavery laws. Harrington had left the state. Efforts to find him in Louisiana failed. His court permission for a medical place gave some cover, as his work could be called owner rights. Dr. Marcus Webb lost standing in Philadelphia medical groups, but no criminal case happened because of place rules and victim status. M. Washington's fate stayed unknown. Searches by Morrison and others found no trace. Some thought she went to Canada with other runaways. Others said she stayed in Philadelphia helping abolition groups record similar cases. James Crawford vanished soon after his letter ran. His Charleston landlord said he left fast with only basic things and no new address. No one knew if he chose to go or was forced. The evidence from Greystone was kept by the Charleston Medical Society for its historical value, despite the horror. The journals and drawings gave rare looks at methods used to test on enslaved people. Later historians used them to study medicine, slavery, and abuse links. The Greystone case showed wider networks. Papers from Harrington mentioned other owners and doctors doing similar research on enslaved people. These groups worked with little trouble, protected by slavery laws and far-off plantations. The case pushed early talks on medical ethics and human tests. It showed how knowledge could turn to harm without rules or victim rights, but real changes came slow, mostly in the 20th century. After the Civil War, reports from Louisiana hinted Edmund Harrington set up a new medical practice in remote areas along the Mississippi. They described similar missing people and odd medical work among freed people. No one looked into it seriously. Dr. Marcus Webb left Philadelphia after the story broke and went west where rules were looser. His name appeared in frontier papers about strange practices, but no probes happened. In 1892, a death record in New Orleans listed a James Crawford, who died in a charity hospital from nervous problems. He spoke often of terrible things he saw. Whether it was the same man was never sure. The Charleston Medical Society papers were used by early 20th century researchers who confirmed the experiments and linked them to other Southern cases. In 1903, an Underground Railroad researcher said a woman like M. Washington reached Canada and lived under a new name until 1898. Records showed she kept writing about abuse cases. The Greystone land changed owners many times. They tried to erase the bad past. The main house was torn down and swamp parts drained for farming, but locals still told stories of strange sounds and a haunted feeling. In the 1970s, archaeology at the old site found more proof. Soil tests showed chemicals like those in Harrington's notes. Radar found signs of extra graves. In 1987, South Carolina named the site historically important to remember the abuse and honor those who spoke out. A small marker reads, "In memory of those who suffered here, and in honor of those who spoke for them." Modern studies put Greystone in a longer line of medical tests on enslaved and other weak groups, showing patterns into the 20th century. M. Washington's letter remains one of the clearest first-person accounts of medical tests in slavery times. Her exact details, careful notes, and bravery despite danger made a lasting record of abuse and resistance. William Morrison's work showed journalism can uncover hidden wrongs and the need to keep proof safe from being forgotten. The Greystone story raises big questions about medical rules, human rights, and protecting the weak. It shows how knowledge without ethics can lead to great harm. Today, the old Greystone spot reminds us that seeking knowledge without moral limits can cause deep suffering. The quiet Harrington wanted is gone, replaced by M. Washington's voice breaking through to make the world see the crimes done in the name of science. The cypress swamps grow back over the land where abuse happened under law and silence. But the voices of those who suffered and those who risked all to tell stay in history, urging every new time to fight dehumanization. The biggest lesson from Greystone may be that one person's bravery, even in great danger, can crack open silence and call for justice against hidden wrongs. M. Washington's letter proves truth can last through efforts to hide it, and survivor voices can challenge even the strongest systems. In the end, Greystone is not just about the horrors there, but about human ability for both great cruelty and great courage. It warns us to guard human worth against those who use weakness for gain, and to keep the stories of those who speak against abuse alive in history. The sound from Greystone today is not Harrington's forced quiet, but the lasting words of M. Washington, and all who refuse to let wrongs stay in the dark. Their bravery keeps lighting the way to justice, making sure lessons from systematic abuse are never lost.